Hi, I'm using a throwaway right now because I do not want this on my main account. I'll be referring to my husband as Harry and my mother-in-law as Olivia. I am a 28-year-old female. Have been married to Harry for about 2 years. Harry, also 28-year-old male, and I were friends in college, and that's how we know each other. We didn't start dating until after we graduated. We ran into each other at a common friend's party a few years ago, and have been together ever since, for almost 4 years, including the time that we have been married. Harry and I love each other, and I don't have any regrets about marrying him, but the only thing that I can't stand is his mother. Olivia was a single mother and raised Harry all on her own. And that's great, but she is really arrogant and cold, which is what makes it very difficult for me to like her as a person. She made it clear from the very first day that she didn't approve of me, and I think it has a lot to do with my financial background. I don't come from a rich family, and my parents had to really work hard to provide for me and my 3 sisters. We were quite poor growing up. My dad used to be a janitor, and my mother had to take up several odd jobs to be able to support us. I'm honestly not ashamed of it, and I'm actually quite proud of where I come from, as are all my siblings. Let me just put it out there that we never looked at our parents' jobs as something to be ashamed of or to be embarrassed by. They were honest, hard-working people, and we always have been, still are, and will continue to be extremely proud of them for raising us to be good people, just like them. Olivia, however, is quite classist, and instantly made a face when I revealed to her that my dad used to be a janitor and my mom would run errands for those who could afford it. That was back when we had dinner with her for the first time, and ever since then she made it pretty clear to me that I wasn't welcome in her family and she would never accept me as one of her own. She didn't say anything to my face, but she would always keep her distance from me physically, like she couldn't touch me or something, whenever she would invite us for dinner, and even used different silverware and plates for me, which were slightly less pretty than the ones she and her son used. I didn't bring it up because I thought I was overthinking things, and I didn't want to make a big deal out of nothing, but then there were a lot of other things too, which forced me to come to terms with the fact that Olivia was classist. She would buy me cheap birthday presents, and I knew it because she left the price tag on. For context, Olivia ran her own business and could definitely afford to buy nice presents for people, and she did. She got Harry a very expensive watch one year and got her assistant an all-expenses-paid trip to Bali for 3 days. The very same year, she gifted me a knockoff Prada bag which didn't cost more than $85. After that, I realized that I wasn't imagining anything and she most certainly didn't like me. The biggest mistake that I made was not talking to Harry about this back then, because I didn't know how to talk to anyone about something so upsetting. I had been discriminated against before, but it was never by someone who I hoped to have a relationship with in the future. I actually did admire Olivia before I saw this ugly side, since I want to have a business of my own someday as well. And when Harry told me about this mother, I was quite impressed. My sisters and I are all finance majors. We went to college thanks to student loans and were able to score well enough to bag decent jobs. I work in marketing and advertising, but I really want to build something of my own, and I didn't want a bad relationship with my mother-in-law, which is why I didn't speak up about Olivia before Harry and I got married. I hoped that she would accept me eventually, but it didn't happen. And then it just became too awkward. I finally did speak up a few months after we got married and told Harry that I didn't feel comfortable visiting his mother because she made me feel inferior, and I had a feeling that it had something to do with my family and my dad's profession. He was quite understanding about it and told me that he would speak to his mother and try to clear the air between us. He did live up to it, but it didn't lead anywhere because after he spoke to Olivia about it, she just denied everything vehemently and started crying crocodile tears because she felt attacked, and claimed that she had been nothing but warm to me, so this accusation of her being classist was uncalled for. But that didn't change the way I felt about her, and only made me feel like she was trying to manipulate us. So I told Harry that I appreciated his efforts, but I still didn't feel comfortable around her, so we decided that he could stay in touch with her, but I would avoid her, and only when I felt ready would I talk to her. He didn't cut her off, but distanced himself, and I knew she hated me for it. Now that we were married, I didn't have much of a choice when it came to her and had to make my peace with it. Olivia and I would meet at family get-togethers, but we wouldn't see each other otherwise, and we were both fine with that arrangement for a while. However, a few days ago she texted me around noon that she was celebrating her 50th birthday and she wanted me to be present a few hours before the party was supposed to begin because she wanted to mend things. She told me that I had been right about her, and she had kind of been horrible to me in the past, so she wanted to make up to me for it. I agreed to it and showed up early because I was really happy since I felt like she was finally coming around and accepting me as her family. But that turned out to be a bust because as soon as I got there, she told me to go wait in the kitchen for a while. It was confusing, but I did it, and a little while later she came into the kitchen herself and introduced me as her housemaid to the waitstaff who were there for the party. I was shocked because this was a new low, even for her, and to make it all worse, she was recording it and laughing like this was the funniest prank that one could ever play. Everybody else was also quite uncomfortable, and I was so humiliated that I started crying. I ran out of the house and got into my car so I could drive back home. I had told Harry that I was visiting Olivia, but he was busy at work, so he hadn't read that text, and he wasn't going to be at the party until it was supposed to begin, so I came back to an empty house and an empty inbox, which made me feel even more alone. And I cried myself to sleep. I woke up a couple of hours later, and Harry was finally home by then. He was sitting beside me on the bed, furiously typing on his phone, and when I asked him why he wasn't at the party, he turned his phone towards me and showed me a video that his mother had posted. It was the video that she had recorded and had captioned it as a prank that went wrong. She cut the video off right before I started crying so it didn't look as bad, but she still posted it, only to humiliate me, and I started crying once again. Harry told me not to worry about it because he was trying his best to have it taken down and told me that he would pull out all the stops to make sure that his mother regretted this. She wasn't replying to his messages or picking up his calls, probably because she was busy with the party. But he knew that she would call him in a while to ask why he wasn't there yet, and when she would, he promised me that he would teach her a lesson of a lifetime. He most certainly did live up to the promise, because about an hour after I woke up, his mother called him, and I can't repeat exactly what he called her, but trust me, it was bad. He ended the call by promising to file a lawsuit against her for what she did to me. After he was done yelling at her on the phone, he apologized to me repeatedly for not doing enough about Olivia when I told him that I wasn't comfortable with her. I honestly didn't blame him because back when I first brought it up with him, I made it seem like it wasn't a big deal, which is why he didn't deal with it that seriously. I also never spoke up about the other incidents that bothered me, and he isn't exactly the most attentive or observant person, so he never picked up on any of that himself either. I can't exactly blame him for not cutting his mother off because he had no idea exactly how horrible she was capable of being. But then on the day of her party, I finally told him everything and he was furious. He told me that I should have let him know, and I agree, I really should have. He never would have allowed this to go on for so long. He also apologized for falling asleep at the wheel and never noticing how his mother was treating me. We talked things through, and then he called up his lawyer because he wanted to know if there was any legal way that we could get back at her for what she did. Unfortunately, we couldn't file a lawsuit for emotional distress because there weren't exactly any physical repercussions of what she did, so even if he did go after her, that was a good chance that we would end up wasting our time. I told Harry that there was no need for us to go after her anyway, and that we could just cut her out of our lives. But he told me that it wasn't good enough for him, and he wanted to teach her a lesson. I could tell that he was really angry on my behalf, and I loved him more for it, so I didn't try to stop him. He didn't do anything that day, but then, the next morning, he told me that he had contacted his mother and told her that she had 3 days to issue a public apology. Not just to me, but also to my family, and it had to be in video form, or else he would make sure that all her business associates got to know about the way she had been treating me, and that would pretty much ruin her future, because she'd carved a niche for herself as a female entrepreneur, but this wasn't exactly very feminist of her. The negative reputation could potentially ruin her future, so she'd probably have to take this threat very seriously. We are on the 2nd day right now, and I honestly don't feel very good about this. This feels really close to blackmail, and I did tell Harry about it, but he dismissed my worries and told me that this was the only way to teach Olivia a lesson to make sure that she would never repeat the kind of behavior or try to bother me again. I don't like this. Am I the a-hole for letting my husband go after my mother-in-law? Update 1. Hi, as many of you suggested, I sat Harry down after he came back from work and told him about my concerns yet again. I know Olivia is the bad guy here, but I don't want to stoop down to her level just to get back at her, and I told him that I didn't like the idea of him resorting to such tactics only to get her to apologize. And an apology wouldn't even mean anything because she would just be saying it for the sake of it. So I told him that I didn't want him to go through with this, and to call it off and tell Olivia that she didn't need to put up any apology and she was free to do whatever she wanted as long as she stayed the heck away from us. Surprisingly, he didn't resist this time around, but just broke down into tears, and I had to console him for several minutes before he could finally tell me what he was upset about. As most of you said already, he was overcompensating for not taking things seriously and dealing with the situation properly when I first told him about Olivia. I know most of it is my fault, because I was so desperate to win her over and accept me even though she hated me. But after watching that video, which has since been deleted, he realized just how deep-rooted Olivia's problems were and felt really guilty. So he started channeling all that guilt into getting back at his mom instead of just listening to me and what I wanted to do. But talking to me made him realize that he was making that same mistake again and not taking me seriously. It probably doesn't help that I'm quite submissive and literally have no idea how to assert myself, but we talked about it and he texted Olivia and told her that there was no need for an apology because now he just didn't want anything to do with her and that was it. I'm actually quite proud of the both of us for dealing with this so well and making sure that it's us versus the problem and not us versus each other. Honestly, Harry and I care very deeply for each other, which is why it was so hard for us to tell one another about the biggest problems. We need to work on that, so we agreed that we are going to look into marriage counseling since we clearly could do with it. I have already started looking, and I hope to start working on our marriage within the next week or so to make sure that these incidents don't repeat ever again. This has been one of the worst experiences of my life, and I don't want to feel the way I felt a couple of days ago ever again. I'm really glad that Harry is cutting Olivia off, because I don't think I would have ever been able to see her again and resist the urge to smack all the arrogance out of her. I won't do it, but I hope that someone does. Update 2. A week has passed since the day of the party and Olivia hadn't tried to talk to us after Harry gave her that ultimatum. And she didn't even reply when he told her that he was calling it off and he didn't need an apology anymore. We knew that something was wrong, and she was definitely preparing to do something big because she wasn't one to let this slide. But then, days passed and she did nothing, so we kind of forgot about it. It was past midnight. For the first time, the first week of month, this had happened a week or two. However, today she finally turned up at our house. She had her lawyer with her, and when I opened the door, she walked in without even glancing at me, as if I was not even there. And then she started calling out for Harry and told him to come see her in the living room. It was stupid because Harry was in our bedroom and I was going to go tell him to do that anyway, so she didn't need to take matters into her own hands. When Harry appeared in the living room, she told him to sit down on the couch, and it was really annoying for us because she was acting like this was her house and ordering us around inside our own home. So Harry told her that he was going to do whatever he wanted to, and right now he didn't want to speak to her, so she needed to leave and take her lawyer with her because it didn't scare him. But Olivia didn't budge and insisted that he take a seat because he would want to hear this. I was the one who told Harry to just do it because I wanted her out of the house as soon as possible, and that wouldn't happen unless she had said what she wanted to say. I just wanted to get this over with, and if that meant that we would have to listen to Olivia threaten us legally or some other rubbish, I was ready to hear her out, and then she could get the heck out. So then Harry took his place on the couch, and I sat down beside him, just to show her who's boss around here. So she could ignore me all she wanted, but this was our house, and she needed to know her place. She still ignored me, and then told her lawyer to come forward and start reading the terms of the document that she had prepared. And so he did. Essentially, it just said that she wanted Harry to leave me because otherwise she would write him out of her will and give it all away to other family members, her employees, and charity. It included a list of properties and assets that she had made, probably just to freak him out and make Harry think about what he was losing out on by staying with me. But he seemed unfazed, even while the lawyer was going through that list, and it almost appeared like he was bored, because he was fiddling with the ring on my finger and not even paying attention to what was being read out. After the reading of the document was complete, Olivia stood there and asked Harry if he had given any thought to what he was going to do now, because if he stayed with me, then he could say goodbye to her and his inheritance forever. And then the funniest thing happened. Harry stood up, walked towards his mother, and then gave her a big hug, and then he said, "Goodbye, Mom." It was hilarious when her face turned from triumphant to shocked, and I couldn't stop giggling. So then she finally acknowledged my existence and snapped at me. She told me to shut up and started throwing a temper tantrum by calling me several choice words that I will not be repeating here. I didn't even say anything to her and pretended that I couldn't hear her because I knew that's what would piss her off the most. Even Harry didn't argue with her, and after she started screaming at me, he said to me that it was time that we returned to our room because this could take a while, since his mother was clearly going crazy. And he didn't want to stick around to witness more of her mental breakdown, as it was quite embarrassing. Both of us were speaking to each other pretty normally, like she was not there and completely ignoring her wild screaming and cursing. Both of us got up to go back to our room to piss her off, but then she took it too far and started accusing me of being a gold digger. She said that she never should have approved of our marriage and that she should have on that I was only after Harry for his money, probably since my dad was too much of a loser to earn some for himself. That was out of line because she has no idea how hard my dad has worked for us, and I'm not going to let anyone take that away from us. I didn't argue, but I just told her that my husband was literally rejecting her in spite of all her money today, so I was anything but a gold digger. I was a working woman. I didn't take any money from my husband and did everything on my own, so she had no idea what she was talking about. Then I told her to get out of my house before I called the police and had her escorted out. She finally left, but her visit had already left a bad taste in our mouths. It was an unpleasant visit, but we got a lot of things out of the way, and she knows not to pick on us, so hopefully she will keep that in mind and leave us alone. Update 3. Hey guys, so I'm back here because Olivia did something really nasty and low, and I can't believe that she thought she could get away with this. About 2 weeks have passed since she visited us, and because she didn't do anything or try to talk to us after that, Harry and I assumed that this chapter was finally done with, and we could resume our normal lives. Clearly not, because I just got a call from my parents about an hour ago, and they were telling me that Olivia had paid them a visit, and it was not good. She barged into their house and insulted them, calling them terrible parents who raised a gold-digging and conniving B-word like me. She said a lot of other things as well about me, but that's not even what I'm offended about. She told my mother that if she had spent more time at home actually raising us instead of running errands and trying to earn money, then maybe we would have turned out better. And of course she did insult my dad about his profession, once again, and said that she never should have allowed her only son to marry into a family like ours. Knowing that my dad was so used to cleaning up other people's trash, it was no surprise that his own daughters were the filthiest. My parents were almost in tears when they were telling me about all the things that she had said, and I just couldn't hold back my anger. I still can't. Even thinking about her yelling at my parents in their house makes my blood boil. I'm at work right now, so I can't exactly do anything about it, but as soon as my work for the day is done, I'm heading over to Olivia's house and ripping her a new one because she definitely needs to be taken down. I texted Harry about it as soon as I got to know about what happened with my parents, but he is busy with work, so he hasn't replied yet. I honestly don't want him to accompany me, but I have informed him so it doesn't take him by surprise when Olivia calls him up crying about all the things that I said to her. Update 4. Hi. So I'm currently at home. I came back from Olivia's house about 3 hours ago, and I swear it was incredibly satisfying to shout at her and let her know exactly what I thought of her. She didn't seem surprised when I showed up at her place and opened the door herself. She was smirking at me, and that's when I lost it. She didn't even have to say anything to make me mad because I was already fuming. I pushed her aside and went inside the house, and then I asked her if she had paid my parents a visit and if she had indeed said all those horrible things to them. When she said yes, she sounded very pleased with herself, and I wanted to wipe that smirk right off her face. So I screamed at her as loudly as I could, and I swear I felt the house shake. I asked her how dare she, and she was so taken aback by the sheer volume that she had to take a couple of steps back. It's quite comical now that I think about it, but she was really shocked because I am generally a quiet and soft-spoken person, and I try not to yell as much as I can. I even kind of surprised myself by how loudly I was screaming at her. I went on to call her a hypocrite and a sad excuse of a human being. I told her that she had completely failed at being a mother because she couldn't even try to put Harry's happiness over her own, which is why she was going out of her way to break us apart. But unfortunately that was not going to happen because Harry and I loved each other because we were capable of it. Unlike her, who didn't even know what that word meant. It was a low blow, but then I told her that I was glad that her husband passed away when Harry was little, because he probably wouldn't have been able to survive living with her. So I called her worse than whatever disease that he had, and that's when she started crying. But I wasn't about to stop just yet, so I went on yelling at her for quite a few more minutes. I didn't stop until I finally ran out of steam. By then, she was sobbing inconsolably, and I was quite happy about it, because it was very satisfying for me to see her break down like that. She had made me feel bad about myself and my family, and worst of all, she had insulted my parents for no fault of theirs. She deserved this. A few minutes after she started crying, I stormed out of the house and came back home, and about an hour after I came back, Harry also returned. He told me that he got off work earlier, but he didn't come back home directly, since he thought that I would be at Olivia's house. So he headed over there, but when he reached, I had already left. I'd driven away just a couple of minutes before he got there. The door to his mother's house was already open, and he knew that I had been there because when he walked in, Olivia was curled up on the couch and crying her heart out. I thought that Harry was going to be mad at me for making his mother cry like that, since she never really expressed her emotions. Not by crying, at least. But he told me that he was proud of me for finally taking a stand for myself, and he was happy that I wasn't letting anyone walk over me. He gave me a hug after that and apologized for whatever his mother had said to my parents, and then he told me what he had talked to his mother about before he came back here. It was a short conversation, but that was probably one of the last times that Harry was going to talk to Olivia, because he told me that we were going to have no contact with her, and if she tries to mess with us again, then we are filing for a restraining order. Anyway, apparently when Harry asked her about what I had said to her, she repeated everything, including what I said about his father and Olivia, expected him to defend her and finally say that he was going to leave me because I had taken things too far. But he disappointed his mom yet again and told her that even though it was his father that I was talking about, he didn't find it offensive because Olivia had said much worse things about my family, so she kind of had this one coming. Then he and Olivia got into a fight again, where she accused him of not caring about her and taking my side just because I was pretending to be soft and innocent. But he told her that that was not the case at all, and the only reason that he was on my side here was because I was right. I had never gone out of my way to hurt her or make her feel inferior. It was she who used to do that to me, and even when she was confronted about it and given a chance to improve, she didn't take it. Instead, she turned it around on me and tried to gaslight me. So now she couldn't complain because she had enough opportunities to make things right with me. But she didn't, and now that I was finally standing up for myself, there was no way that she could victimize herself and make me look like the villain. Then he walked out of his mother's house, even while she was screaming for him to come back, and demanded that he leave me. But he told me that he had made his choice and he didn't care about anything else. It was sweet, and we had a cute little moment. We are still going to continue marriage counseling as it's going well, but now we know for sure that we have each other's backs forever. And that's all I ever really wanted anyway.